An episode is going to be. We write that up as a 2-page premise. That goes to Hasbro in Rhode Island, that goes to the network, that goes to the studio executives, that goes to Polygon. Everybody weighs in. Then we expand that premise into a 10 to 12 page outline. Same process, goes to all the same people. At that detailed stage, Polygon may actually come back to us and say, hey, if you move this scene to a different location that we already have, we don't have to build something new. Or maybe our supervising director, Dave Hartman, will say, can we play this at night rather than day because we can do some better things. So it's always evolving. Then we get to the script stage. We usually go through 3 drafts on the script to get it just right. And then the next stage is we record it. And we actually record once a week with our entire cast in the room together. So a lot of animated movies especially do 1 actor at a time. But we like having everybody in the room together, bouncing off each other. We think it gives you some more surprises, better performances. So we do that record session, and then that audio track and the script are given to a whole bunch of artists. Some of those artists are designing props. Some of them are designing the new characters we may be introducing into an episode. Vince Toyama and his team are creating the backgrounds, the locations, or the changes to locations we already have that we may need. And again, Jose Lopez, his team, doing character work. And then the process begins storyboarding. And storyboarding is basically 3 pictures per page of all the action that happens in the script. And the storyboards for this show are hundreds and hundreds of pages of drawings. And all that will go, again, through various executives at the studio, at the toy company, at the network. This is Jose Lopez, ladies and gentlemen, the lead designer on Transformers Prime. And we will eventually revise those a few times. Usually the scripts are longer than what we can actually show on air, so we'll make some cuts to those storyboards. We'll feed them into a computer, and they'll become basically a flip book. They become what's called an animatic, and that's the equivalent of a flip book. And we use that flip book to make sure that everything is playing at the right length of time, that the scenes feel the right length of time, and that it all hits the exact running time we need to deliver. We have to deliver the exact same time every time we deliver an episode to the network. We don't have any flexibility where we can go a half second, 30 seconds longer, one episode, or 30 seconds shorter. The only flexibility we have, if you've watched the show, you may notice, we actually have 2 different main titles. One is 45 seconds long, and one is 33 seconds long. So if we need extra time for story, we'll actually use our shorter main title. I don't know if the network actually knows that yet, but obviously now they will. That's the only cheat we can possibly do. So we now have our final animatic, which is all the animated storyboards. We have all our designs, including color schemes. We have all our new locations or additional location and background information. All our props, all our key props, and all that stuff with the audio track goes to Japan, and they begin their part of the process.
Yes. So we are the ones who are the executors of Jeff's, David Hartman's, and all the team's vision. We try to fulfill as much as possible, given the parameters of the schedule and the budget, what they want to bring to the TV screen. And so, you know, as Jeff mentioned, it's a very collaborative process. We are given the materials, we digest it, we do some R&D on things that need R&D, some new expressions and such, and for things that we feel might be done more effectively in terms of execution, we give suggestions, a lot of which Jeff's team listens. So as you know, the program is rendered completely in computers, but even if, I mean, I'm sure some of you know the process of computer animation, but all I can say is that even though we are using computers, the work doesn't get any easier. The computers are just a tool, and so the people who operate the computers make the frames, frame by frame, bits and pieces of it. So I have a video that was compiled by our CGI director, Hiroyuki Hayashi, explaining the whole process. I just got it midnight 2 days before, after I landed in Singapore. And so I've seen it for the first time 2 days ago. I do have to sort of apologize that it's got a very homemade feel to it because it was made at home just before coming over. But at least you will be able to see the processes that we go through, at least you will be able to see the actual faces of the people who are behind the animation. So it's a little 7-minute or so piece. So can you roll the video, please?
皆さん、こんにちは。僕は日本チームでトランスフォーマープライムのスーパーバイジング CG ディレクターをしている林博之です。日本は今もうミッドナイトです。修造が突然トランスフォーマープライムの CG がどんな風に作られているかのビデオをまとめてくれっていうもんやからやろうと思います。9やっちゅうの。気を取り直してやりましょう。まず最初は表でどんな風に仕事が流れているかをご説明します。新しいエピソードの資料が最初にハスブロさんから届きます。ポリゴンピクチャーズでは僕たち演出部が内容をブレイクダウンします。この他にもいろいろな画像資料が我々の手元には送られてきます。表現したい光線感、空間感というものが描かれています。そのエピソードで登場する小さなブロック、そういうもののデザインですね。CG では全ての根幹として、レイアウトという作業が設計図になります。
DLSF レイアウトアーティストの戸村と申します。実際に足がいる位置ですね。
左側の画面がカメラから見た画面。
そうです。
そこでこうですね。巨大な入り口に入っています。立ち上がったトンがトランスフォームで出てきます。橋本さんからレイアウトのアップループがもらえたらいよいよモデリングは細かい部分に進みます。じゃあちょっとモデリングチームの方行ってみましょう。モデリングスーパーバイザーの中島さんです。
これはなんかバランス取れてるなとは。
なんかずっと人どんなポーズをレイアウトでカメラとキャラクターのポージング、動線が決まるのでアニメーションも細かな演技に入ります。アニメーションスーパーバイザーの河野さんです。アップルーブの撮れたアニメーションはトランスフォームの工程に進みます。トランスフォーマーのアニメーションっていうのはすごく生き生きしてるって言われるんですけれども、
アニメーションはそこからどんどん肉付けをしていく、演技付けをしていくだけで役者さんのお芝居をしていく、そういう作業が形としては先です
アニメーション SV の秋田さんです。こちらにもアニメーション SV の加藤さんです。よろしくお願いします。
Coolest thing. This isn't even her actual form. She's really a giant robot who can transform into a vehicle. Enough, Jack.
ルックデブはカラースクリプトをもとにセットのスカンとライティングを決める工程です。
So yeah, this is introducing Salvo, who's in charge of getting in the texture and the lighting for breakdown character once that model is ready. Is there anything particularly difficult in terms of lighting or textures having to deal with such different size characters?
Most of the difficulties are related to details because this kind of characters they show details close up. So even if there are big characters or any kind of asset need to be sometimes to be shown in detail. So the amount of wrinkles, scratches, or any kind of surface details need to be shown very close to the camera. So that is most difficult thing to consider because you need to make it believable in all kind of camera.
忘れちゃいけない素材があります。です。安田さんです。
どうも安田と申します。ストリークが出てるという感じ。
これはエピソードでいうと、第1シーズンの最後。
そうですね。気に入る6になりますね。
これはユニクロ。
ユニクロですね。はい。
That way.
マット、ルックデブ、ライティング、エフェクトの作業が終わると、すべてのデータがレンダリングとコンポジットの工程に進みます。
あと虹を補正されるで、エフェクト。
手直しやより細かい効果をつけるためにポストコンポジットが行われます。エディットのスーパーバイザーやっていただいている佐久間さんです。よろしくお願いします。コンポジットが終わった最終的な素材をここで集めて、プレビューしたり、クライアントさんに渡すものを集めて、データを整理したりします。
Don't want engine noise to attract the wrong kind of attention.
Caught?
Vermin. K-On saw its share of battle during the war. But this damage you see?
完成した CD はハズブロさん、ウッドリックさんでプレビューされた後、デリバリーされます。
Wow, that is pretty amazing. Tons of work needed, and again, as you can tell, Mr. Shuzo and his team is definitely one of the most talented around in the world right now. And that's why they're working with Hasbro Studio. According to Jeff, they are the only crazy team that is able to actually pick up this project. Let's have Shuzo.
So the process isn't done yet.
Yeah, this is
it comes back to us in Los Angeles, Burbank, California, actually. And there's still a lot of work to be done on it before it goes on air.
And this is post. Post is typically where the finishing is done, and it's a little bit different on this series, partially being a CG series and partially because the pre-production side and Shuzo's team at Polygon work so closely together through the rest of the process that by the time most of the footage comes back to us in post, the picture's pretty much done. Typically in post, we would be calling for fixes. We would be dropping the footage into our approved timeline from the network, making sure that everything lines up there. And then we would be going in, it's finishing the picture, it's finishing the audio. We have voice tracks from pre-production that we go in and sometimes clean up, sometimes just drop into the picture, but then we've got sound design that needs to happen, and that's music composition, sound effects design. There's a mix that takes place at that point, and everything is pretty much dropped into place.
And then Brian Tyler's score, which is fantastic. Brian Tyler is the composer of the music you've been hearing. This is his first TV show. He's only done features before this. And one of the nice things about having a series in production is if we're looking at an animatic and we discover that it would be better if we had a different line, if we had recorded something different. If we're still in production on a season, we can actually write that line and pick it up at our next record session, which we do once a week, and go backwards and drop it in and actually change or make it work with the picture we already have. So each episode, even when you think it's done at any one stage, we're actually still tweaking it. Sometimes when stuff comes back from Shuzo, our supervising director, Dave Hartman, will add a little more smoke or a little more highlight or something. We're always tweaking it to the last possible second when we have to deliver it for the airing in the States.
It's an extremely collaborative process, and it really doesn't work without everyone working together really closely and just being on the same page all the way through the production.
And we're probably talking about between the in-house people, we have the in-house artists, the writers, the actors, all the support people from composer, music, sound editing, et cetera, plus all of your people. We're probably talking about 150 or more people at any given time working together.
Well, even in our studio at our peak, we had about 150 people. So
225 people.
Yeah, and with season 2 now, we have partners in Malaysia and also in Thailand, and so altogether, yes, easy 250, 300 people are involved in the show.
So it's basically looking like a huge jigsaw puzzle, you know, so every piece is that important to make things work. So we're looking at this right now. Can Jeff just tell us a little bit more about stuffing up the series? You know, what are the necessary skill sets that we're looking at over here?
Well, obviously, it starts with the writers, so we try to find and choose the best writers in animation. And there's a good size pool, but the best ones, there's actually a pretty small pool. So again, the decision was made very early on, first season of Transformers Prime, that rather than having maybe one in-house head writer and freelancing all the other episodes out, which is what most animated series do, we would actually have, at that time, including myself, Bob Orsi, and Alex Kurtzman, we had 7 full-time writers on the writing staff, more than that actually, if you include our writers. So we had in-house writers only working on Transformers Prime, sitting in a room 5 days a week working on story. As far as artists go, Jose Lopez is our lead designer. He put his team together. Most of them had some CG experience because we knew this was going to be a CG show. Vince Toyama's our lead background and location designer. He's actually a former architect. So when he's building these locations in a computer, he's doing so with an architect's eye, where all the proportions are actually true. You could actually take Vince's schematics and build Cybertron if you wanted to. It'd be expensive, but you could do it. As far as our storyboard artists go, that's probably the hardest thing for us to find, our storyboard artists who can work within what we do, because what we're asking of our storyboard artists isn't just, can you draw well? We're actually asking them to understand where to put a camera, when to use a one-shot, when to use a two-shot, when to use a close-up. So we really look for our artists to have experience in both illustration and film language. Maybe they went to film school, maybe they shoot their own movies. But we really look for both of those skills. It's not enough just to be able to draw well. You actually have to have some understanding of how to tell a story, even as an artist. And again, we're constantly trying to bring on young people that we can train, that we make a part of the process. We've been very lucky on Transformers Prime. We're actually just starting production on our 3rd season right now, and we basically have the same team we had for seasons 1 and 2, which is pretty unusual. It's not that we pay more than anybody else, it's that actually the people want to work on Transformers more than anything else.
Sounds great. Because a lot of selection, a lot of headaches, meetings and stuff like that. Pain going through the selection time, but I think it will feel probably the same kind of perspective from Shujo's point. How do you choose your crew then?
So yeah, it's as you've seen in the video, the production processes go through a lot of different phases and a lot of different specialties. And so the criteria for our staff would be that, one, they are really good at that particular departments that they will be working on. So if you're a modeler, you're good at modeling. If you're an animator, you should be good at animation. And the second thing that we really prioritize, and like I say, because this is a very collaborative process that involves a lot of people, that these people are not only good, but they are communicators. And so they have to be able to work within a group of close to 100 people and be able to communicate and collaborate. So that's another very important thing. The interesting part about our company, even though we are based in Japan, and we are a company that is comprised of a lot of different nationalities. About 80% of the staff are Japanese, but we have 20% who come from all other different countries. We have, at last count, we have about people from 20 different countries. And so our method of communication is either Japanese or English, and as you see, we have translators in-house communicating and translating our communications. So that's another different thing. But basically, you know, for us, this is whether or not they're good or not, and they're very good communicators. And also, very important is that they like Transformers. One of the supervisors that you've seen who's in charge of the transformation, he has worked on the first generation animation in the past as a 2D animator. So he's been a veteran of close to 20 years. And so a lot of guys are really dying to work on Transformers. They take really passion and pride in twinkling with the models and making sure each of the movements are right and making sure each of the transformations are right. So it's a big passion of love that they're going through, even though, you know, their work hours are quite long, and, you know, it's a difficult, but for them it's a very interesting, and it's a passion of the process.
Definitely, not only the skills counts, the passion as well. We got a question for Miss Kathy as well. Could you actually discuss with us how production process and the challenges on Prime is actually different from some of the Hasbro's shows?
I think every project has its own kind of unique set of challenges, and a lot of that revolves around the creative decisions made around the projects. Prime is just such a big, well-known property that I think that may be the key. You know, there's so much focus on it that making sure that, as both Jeff and Shuzo had said, that all of the pieces are the correct pieces and that they work together well, and that the communication is there, even in this day and age with the internet and email and Skype and everything else. I think just that challenge of really making it personal and making sure you're working as a team.
Oh, that's really cool. And I'm pretty sure fans out there have some question for our panels over here today. Well, this is your time right now, your opportunity to check it out with our panels. I'll be making my way around with the mic in my hand. So if you have any questions, you can actually check out with either Jeff, Mr. Shuzo, or Miss Kathy. I'll start from this side over here. How about, okay, in front over here. All right, one question.